Welcome if this your first time on the channel. Today we listening to a bunch of people, Chris Broussard, Bomani Jones, another anchor, Mike Tomlin, talk about Shedeur Sanders because everybody is hopping to racism. I say, you know what? Let me wait for a little bit more information to come out because naturally my first thought was, hold on, Cam Ward got drafted first. How is it racism? Why would they just draft another black guy and then go, all right, we ain't gonna draft this black guy because of racism? Now, Shedeur, I think, overvalued his skills. And then the NFL thought he ain't as good as he portray he is. And his dad might have overvalued his skills too. But it ain't racism. People hop straight to that. But I'm gonna prove to you, it ain't that. We're going to listen to Chris Broussard first and give his breakdown. Now, some of y'all in y'all mind probably already made up, but it's just like, dog, chill. Everything ain't racism. Let's listen to Chris Broussard. Make sure you subscribe. Click that like button because that's how they push the video. I appreciate you. Now, let's go.
After day 2 and he's not drafted, and then it's the 4th round, he's not drafted. I mean, one, I start feeling sorry for him. Yeah. You know, and then he gets the call from, Jeff Ulbricht's kid and all that. But it also is hard, and I get it if you think he's not as good as Jackson Dart, right? Okay. Let alone Cam Ward. But Shuck and Milroe and Dylan Gabriel, it began to feel like, man, something nefarious is going on. Like, this is more than just football. And look, I said it going into the draft. We talked about it a few times. I thought the specter of Deion Sanders was hovering over this thing. And I think now it's proven that it was hovering over it more than we even thought. Deion went on talk shows, Tamron Hall in particular, and said, yeah, I'm going to intervene. He was, like you said, talking like everybody wanted.
But don't you think that none of that matters if they think the kid's the starter?
Yes, I do.
If
that's the key.
Awesome, then they'll overlook that. Yeah. But I'm saying they didn't think Shedeur was good enough to override all that. And let me say this, because this is hovering around too. The elephant in the room for a lot of people. Race.
Let's go, Chris.
Some people are saying race, Deion because he's black. A white father would they have viewed that way? Look, are there owners in the NFL that maybe if it was a white father acting as Deion wouldn't look at it as bothersome? Perhaps, probably, right?
Maybe.
But here's the truth. Cam Ward, obviously, black quarterback chosen number 1. Second straight year, black quarterback chosen number 1.
Second straight year.
He's the 7th black quarterback that's been chosen number 1 in the draft. All right. 2 of the teams that overlooked Shedeur. Andrew Berry with the Browns, the GM is black. And if you're right, coach, it was a white owner that said, go draft him. All right. We saw the picture. He didn't look excited. The Steelers, Mike Tomlin, black coach, they overlooked him. And if you look, I keep looking at the war rooms and when they have it, that was like the blackest war room in the league. Get more brothers in the war room. My goodness. It's like ridiculous. Where are the brothers at? But then you go to the reporters. The reporter that reported that people thought Shedeur was brash and arrogant was black, Josina Anderson. The reporter who said that Jonathan Jones, African-American, says that the feeling was Shedeur sandbagged. That's a direct quote. Sandbagged some of his interviews, purposely didn't do well because he didn't want to go to those teams. He was African-American. When we start the season, week 1, anywhere from 15 to 17 of the starting quarterbacks will be black. So I'm just saying, race, maybe it was some sort of factor, but it was not the dominant factor in this situation.
That's what Chris is saying. Yo, dog, it's other factors. If Shedeur was sandbagging his interviews, that's ridiculous. And that's the problem. A lot of people yo, in the NFL, you gotta, show that you want it. Things that get around if you sandbagging your interviews on top of the fact you don't got the talent because he can still be great. Tom Brady ain't had a talent that jumped off where you could just see it, right? Shedeur could be like that where he just don't got the talent to where it jumped off. But some dudes with their decision making and their accuracy are able to get the job done. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, These are guys that were able to manipulate the game, even though they didn't have the strongest arm, but they still was able to be all-time greats. You see what I'm saying? Shedeur could be like that, where he able to get it done, even though he's not the fastest and he don't got the strongest arm. You see? So he could still be great, but people going to racism for him sandbagging interviews, it's ridiculous, y'all. We can't just go straight to race. But let's listen to Mike Tomlin now. Now, Mike didn't draft Shedeur. This is before the actual draft, what he was saying. So Mike didn't draft Shedeur. So he didn't think he had better skill set than the people that he drafted. But he still was trying to save face because he hear what people were saying, what Chris Broussard just said, that Shedeur sandbagging interviews and he might be difficult to work with. So let's listen to Mike Tomlin, even though he didn't draft him. Let's listen.
I've obviously known his father for a long time. My first time meeting him, and to be quite honest with you, we didn't talk a whole lot about my relationship with his father. It was a normal pre-draft visit to spend time with a young man, to talk ball, to get to know him as an individual,
right?
See how he processes and sees the game and how he articulates his football experience. From that standpoint, it was a very normal visit and a very productive one.
Did anything stand out in that meeting about him that maybe you didn't see coming or didn't know?
I think the things that stood out were evident in this video. There's a toughness there that doesn't get talked about enough. There's a competitive spirit there that doesn't get talked about enough. I know he's very talented and made a lot of plays for his university and his team, but the intangible qualities displayed on tape were impressive to me.
You've obviously dealt with a number of guys who are sons of former NFL greats, but I don't think you've ever had one who was his coach while he was in college. What's that dynamic like for you?
I haven't explored it. It's something obviously that he's going to have to deal with in terms of moving on beyond being coached by his father. But professional football is just as professional football. I don't imagine it'll be a challenge for him. There are a lot more significant, tangible challenges.
Right. See, he spoke highly of Shedeur, but they asked a great question like, yo, how do you think he's going to deal with not being coached by his dad? And this is another reason why he didn't get drafted high. Because if you a head coach, you're not about to be speaking highly of Shedeur, and you're basically knowing you would end up bringing Deion Sanders to coach your team. You are bringing Shedeur on, which comes with your replacement. Soon as Shedeur starts struggling, soon as he not playing up to par, if you draft him in the first round and say, hey, he's going to be our future, we're going to make him the starter. Soon as he starts struggling, people going to be like, yo, Deion need to coach him. Or he might go, my dad probably need to coach me. So now if you a head coach, you ain't trying to bring Shedeur on the team knowing if he struggle, Deion gonna come. Now Shedeur made it easy for the teams by sandbagging interviews. Deion made it easy for them to give an excuse. But if you the head coach, you thinking about self too. You ain't trying to bring on no kid and then like, all right, he our future, he gonna start. Knowing soon as he struggle, they gonna go, Deion need to coach him. Well, if Deion gonna be the head coach, where are you gonna work? So coaches, think about these things, man. They're not trying to bring on a replacement. But we listen to Mike Tomlin, who talked highly of him, didn't draft him. Now let's listen to Bomani Jones, and he's talking about the connections that he got and what they said about Shedeur. Let's listen.
And there's still some questions about like how quickly a black quarterback loses his job, for example. What are the things that a black quarterback has to answer for? All of those things are still questions that we have to deal with. All of those things still exist. None of those things have at all to do with Shedeur Sanders. This is what has to do with Shedeur Sanders, I believe. And this, I think, is very, very important. Okay? Right. I think for everybody to pay attention to and understand. I believe, and I want to say this is not simply based on speculation. I talked to people who do a lot of draft evaluations. I talked to people in the media who covered this and some people around the NFL. And my question was, how did we hear that Shedeur was going to go so early and then he went in the 5th round?
Right.
Because him going in the 5th round is not unreasonable. Once again, anybody who tells you everybody thought that Shedeur Sanders was going to go in the 1st round is either lying or doesn't know what they are talking about. Because I can tell you one show that told you that there was a chance that he was going to quote unquote slide, and it was this show right here. To my colleagues who are making this a cause, you are embarrassing yourselves.
Boom.
You are playing yourselves.
Yep.
Okay? And even if part of why he fell was because the people didn't like him, he was going for a job where being liked is part of the deal.
Dog, as a second string quarterback, you gotta be liked. You can't be out here wilding out. And that's what people see him as, a second string quarterback. He's saying, my connections was telling me he might not go 1st round. They was telling him because they knew, like, teams are looking at him like, man, you don't got the right attitude, and then you ain't got the skill set that jumps off the page for us. You gonna fall in the draft. Now let's listen to this anchor who break down even more stuff about Deion and Shedeur and why he slipped. This was actually during the draft.
It's not a shock within the NFL and team buildings when Shedeur Sanders did not go in the 1st round. I would fairly tell you it is a surprise that he is still on the board at the start of day 3. Philosophically, some teams feel like if you were drafting at the quarterback position specifically, if you think you got a starter, you take him in round 1. If you're drafting somebody to be your backup, you don't want to do that until day 3. I spoke last night with one general manager who is considering taking Shedeur Sanders today. He pointed back all the way to March 2024 and something that Shedeur's father, Deion Sanders, said on a podcast talking about both Shedeur and Travis Hunter, saying that if they are drafted by a team that they don't want to go to, he's going to step in and pull an Eli, meaning force those players to not actually go to that team and try to get them traded. Throughout the pre-draft process, Shedeur Sanders very much proceeded as if he was dictating to clubs where he was going to go rather than how the draft works, which is the other way around. And there were a bunch of opportunities missed at the various checkpoints through that pre-draft process. Go all the way back to All-Star season. Instead of going to the Senior Bowl, he went to the East-West Shrine Bowl in his backyard in Dallas. Despite an NFL memo saying if you go to these All-Star games, you have to practice, Shedeur chose not to. At the Combine, it is now well documented some of his formal interviews did not go well. One assistant coach told me in all his years it was the worst formal interview he'd ever been through. People said that Shedeur was trying to dictate how he wanted things to go and made them feel small. Even at the Pro Day, the entire Big 12 had an event in Dallas. Shedeur was there, but did not work out. He had a showcase instead in Colorado, all of which is to say for a player who had a variety of questions both about the talent level, how he would fit into an NFL system, how he would adjust from his play style in college, but also about the potential culture shock of for the first time playing for someone who is not his father. There were opportunities that Shedeur Sanders could have taken there. He seemed to feel as if he was in an elite category where he could choose the few teams he wanted to go to. Now some of those very same teams that might be considering taking Shedeur today didn't get those opportunities to answer their questions.
What teams want on these visits, and we can debate, whether they should, but what they want is to hear a player that is coachable, that is willing to accept information, that is willing to adapt when they're being asked to adapt. He didn't communicate that on a lot of these visits. Again, we could debate this, but I'm just telling you that that's what these teams got.
See, it's a combination of things. It's Deion being his dad, saying they're going to do an Eli Manning where he choose what team he want to go to. On top of the fact, Deion might replace the head coach, so head coach worry about their job. On top of the fact, Shedeur did a horrible job leading up to the draft, not participating in certain things, which we just heard these anchors talk about. Not doing good in interviews, sandbagging interviews. You can't do that when you don't have the guaranteed, leverage. And he didn't. So he just kept falling and falling. I don't think teams even colluded or none of that stuff. I think they did this by thinking they had the leverage, and they didn't have it because he's not a talent that jump off the screen. He's just not. He's a drop back, not too fast. He don't scramble. He's just a drop back passing quarterback, which could pan out for him. This don't mean his career is over. It just mean he lost a lot of money up front, right? Because he got drafted later, and he slipped in the draft. It ain't about racism. It ain't about none of that, man. They keep trying to get people to see sports supposed to be the one place we can go and we don't get all the political, it's racist. No, the best person win. That's what sports supposed to be. But they want to blur them lines so bad that they make everything about racism, even in sports, when it's other factors. Now, what did we learn in this video? One, it's a #1 black draft pick that was a quarterback 2 years in a row. Number two, like 15 to 17, almost, or the majority of quarterbacks will be black in the NFL starting next year. And people are saying it's racism. Like, this stuff is crazy. But y'all let me know, after seeing everything or listening to everything, what do you think caused Shedeur to slip? Because I laid out what I thought caused him to slip, you know, and attitude, his attitude leading up to this played a big role. Deion Sanders played a big role. You know, his skills, what he put on display at his college played a big role too. Y'all let me know what y'all think it was. As always, if this your first time here, make sure you sub to the channel. Check out the other content. Click that like button. Y'all be easy. Be safe. Peace.